Level 1, $0, the passivity, not the poverty. Level 1, $0. Not debt. 0. There's a difference and nobody explains it to you until you've lived on both sides of the line. 0 is a clean number. 0 looks like nothing happened. There's no minus sign. No collection notice. No letter with a window in the envelope. You have nothing at all. Which is not the same as owing nothing. But the screen doesn't distinguish. The screen says $0 and it's telling the truth in a way that feels like a lie. Your paycheck lands on Friday. By Sunday night, it's gone. Not spent recklessly. Spent structurally. Rent took 40%. The car took another 12%. Food took whatever was left. Then there's the phone bill, the insurance, and that thing you forgot was scheduled to charge your account. You do the math on a Tuesday and realize something strange. You didn't make a single decision. Every dollar already had somewhere to go before it even arrived. This is the part that breaks people. Not the poverty. The passivity. You are working 40 hours a week just to move money from an employer to a landlord. You are a routing number with a pulse. The work is real. The tiredness is real. And at the end of it, your account says exactly what it said at the beginning. 0. Like the entire week never happened. You try to save $50. You put it into a separate account. For 9 days it feels good. Then on day 10 the check engine light comes on. And it stays on. That $50 comes right back out. The separate account goes back to 0. The system you built lasted 9 days. And you don't try again for another 4 months. Then somebody tells you about compound interest. They show you a chart. The chart says that if you invest $500 a month starting now, you could have $1.2 million by the time you're 65. You look at the chart. And the chart is talking to someone else. Someone who has $500 a month. You have $500 a month the way you have a summer house. Theoretically. In a version of your life that isn't this one. The advice always assumes the surplus. That's the thing nobody tells you. Every book. Every video. Every financial plan. It begins after the hardest part has already been solved. The hard part isn't allocating the extra money. The hard part is generating extra money that actually exists. You open the app that tracks your spending. It gives you a pie chart. The pie chart tells you that you spent $34 on coffee this month. And apparently, if you stopped drinking coffee, you'd be on your way to becoming a millionaire. You close the app. Because you know something the app doesn't. That $34 isn't the problem. That $34 was the only thing that made Wednesday survivable. The app is optimizing a life it has never had to live. Here is what being at 0 actually costs you. It isn't just the money. It's the horizon. At 0, you can't think very far ahead. You can barely think past the next 11 days. Your entire planning capacity is consumed by the next bill. You are not lazy. You are not undisciplined. You are running a real-time logistics operation with absolutely no reserves. Every ounce of your mental energy goes into keeping the operation from failing today. Long-term thinking is not simply a personality trait. It's a luxury. And luxury costs money. If you can't afford the floor, it's hard to think about building another floor above it. Someone with money tells you to think bigger. You want to explain that thinking bigger requires a floor to stand on. And you're standing on the ground. But you don't say it. You just nod. Because you've learned that explaining your situation makes you sound like you're making excuses. But you're not making excuses. You're describing physics. You are not broke because you are bad with money. Sometimes you are bad with money because you are broke. Nobody at 0 has ever been told that. The $1,000 does something much smaller. It makes a bad idea more expensive to act on. It creates friction. And sometimes, friction is enough. At $1,000, you don't really have wealth yet. You have breathing room. You have evidence that you can survive a setback. You have the beginning of a financial floor. And most importantly, you have something you didn't have at 0. A choice. Level 3. $10,000. Something changed. And it wasn't the number. You crossed 5 figures on a Thursday. You expected it to feel like something. It felt like a Thursday. The digit count changed and your body registered nothing. You stood in your kitchen, slightly insulted by your own lack of reaction. Then, a week later, you noticed it. You get a text about work. A schedule change. Some new indignity from a manager who's been building toward it for months. At 0, that text would have moved through your body like an electric current. Your jaw would tighten. Your shoulders would tense. And underneath everything, there would be a calculation running constantly. Is this the week everything falls apart? You read the text. Nothing happens. Not because you stopped caring. Because $10,000 is for months of your life. For months where the rent gets paid whether or not that man is happy with you. The text arrives into a body that has 4 months of runway. And the body simply doesn't produce the same chemical anymore. You didn't buy freedom. You bought the ability to hear bad news without your hands going cold. That's what the money is. Nobody says it because it doesn't fit on a chart. $10,000 isn't just an amount. It's the distance between you and other people's decisions. You start saying no. Small ones at first. A shift you don't want. A favor you would have accepted at 0 because you couldn't afford to be the kind of person who says no. Now you say no. And the sentence comes out flat. Unremarkable. And the world doesn't end. You go home and think about it for an hour. The size of what you just did is invisible to everyone except you. Your car needs work. $600. You pay it from your savings. Cash. 1 transaction. 40 seconds. Then you notice what didn't happen. No credit card. No 26% interest. No future version of yourself getting handed another bill. The problem costs $600. And stays $600. It doesn't grow. It doesn't follow you into next year. That's the tax nobody itemizes. At 0, every problem is a problem plus interest. At $10,000, a problem is just a problem. You've been paying a surcharge on being alive for your entire adult life. And then, suddenly, it stopped. There was no announcement. You put the $600 back over the next 2 months. It's annoying. It's not a catastrophe. That distinction is the entire level. Then you get invited to something. A trip. A wedding. An event that costs $900 you weren't planning to spend. At 0, you would have invented a reason. A conflict. A schedule problem. Something that let you decline without saying the true sentence. I can't afford it. You would have lied because the lie was cheaper than the truth. This time, you go. It costs $900. You go home. The number is lower. And you're fine. And you learn something about your old self. He wasn't antisocial. He was rationing. Every no he ever gave was a budget decision wearing a personality. Then something happens that nobody prepares you for. You get bored. The system works. Money comes in. Money stays. The number climbs. It climbs by $400 a month. Which means $100,000 is still 19 years away. You do that math at a red light. And you haven't stopped thinking about it since. 19 years. You start looking for the shortcut. Not out of greed. Out of arithmetic. You look at the trajectory and understand something for the first time. Discipline alone will not get you there in a time frame that includes your youth. This is where most people die. Not at 0. Here. $10,000 is where the plan is finally working. And the working is finally unbearable. You don't have wealth at $10,000. You have proof that the machine runs. And a stopwatch telling you that it runs too slowly. Level 4, $25,000, changing the input. You did the thing you weren't supposed to do. You changed the input. Not the spending. Everyone tells you to change the spending. You had already changed the spending. You changed it for 3 years. And the spending was a line you'd sanded down to the bone. There was nothing left in it. So you changed the income. Maybe it was a second job. Maybe it was a skill you sold on the side. Maybe you walked into a room and asked for a number that made your voice do something strange in the middle of the sentence. And the number happened. Not because you deserved it. Because you asked. And asking was free. You had never asked before because at 0, you couldn't afford to be told no. Here's the part they leave out. The raise didn't come from confidence. The confidence came from the $10,000. You could ask because you could survive the answer. The money bought the ask. The ask bought the money. Your income goes up by $1,100 a month. And you watch what happens next with genuine curiosity. Because you've read about lifestyle inflation. The thing that eats people alive. You wait for the urge to buy a better car. It doesn't come. That surprises you. Until you understand why. You didn't resist the temptation. The temptation never arrived. 3 years of not spending rewired what spending feels like. It stopped being pleasure. It became noise. You aren't disciplined. You're bored of it. Those things look identical from the outside. But they are nothing alike. You put the entire $1,100 into the account. The trajectory changes. 19 years becomes 6. That's the level. Not the money. The slope. You open a brokerage account. You do it on a Sunday. And you're nervous in a way that almost embarrasses you. You put in $500. An index fund. The boring one. The one every book recommends. You watch it for a week. It goes up $9. Then down $14. Then up $2. The volatility does something to your nervous system that the number doesn't justify. $14. You lost $14. And you felt it in your chest. You know exactly why. Not because $14 matters. Because you remember when it did. That's the ghost. The part of you that was at zero doesn't disappear when the number changes. He stays. He reads the same screen you do. But he sees something different on it. You keep the money invested. That's the skill. The entire discipline of investing is the ability to not press a button. And the button feels different depending on how you grew up. Someone at work asks what you do with your money. You say, index funds. They laugh. Not cruelly. They laugh the way you laugh at someone taking the stairs. They're trading options. Their friend is in crypto. Everyone is up. Everyone is always up in the story. Because the story is only told during the up. You feel like a coward. That feeling is your best asset. And it doesn't feel like an asset. It feels like being the slowest person in a race that everyone else is winning by cheating. You are not invisible to the market at $25,000. You're simply too small to be worth lying to. Nobody sells you a private deal at $25,000. Nobody flies to your office. The absence of attention is the last free protection you'll ever receive. You don't have leverage at $25,000. You have velocity. Level 5, $50,000, 12 years for a car payment. Halfway. And halfway is a lie. The number tells you to expect this to feel like the summit of something. $50,000 is not a small amount of money. It's more than most people have ever seen in one place. It's more than the person you were at zero could hold in his head as a real quantity. And yet, it feels like nothing at all. You figure out why on a Sunday. Running the numbers for no reason other than the fact that you now do this for fun. Which is its own kind of diagnosis. $50,000 earning 8% produces $4,000 a year. $4,000 a year is about $333 a month. $333 a month is a car payment. 12 years of your life have produced a car payment. You sit with that. It is probably the single most demoralizing calculation in the entire journey. And it arrives precisely at the moment you're supposed to be celebrating. But something else is happening underneath. And you don't see it yet. Your money made $4,000 this year. You didn't do anything. You didn't work a shift. You didn't ask for a raise. $4,000 appeared because $50,000 existed. At zero, $4,000 was 2 months of labor. 2 months of your life. Your body. Your Tuesdays. The account produced it while you slept. For the first time, you're in a room with someone who works for you. It's you. The earlier you. Every hour that person put in is now standing in a factory somewhere, producing $4,000 a year. Forever. And he doesn't stop. He doesn't get tired. He never asks for a raise. You start seeing money differently. And it happens all at once. A $400 jacket isn't just $400 anymore. It's $32 a year forever that you're choosing not to have. You don't do this math to punish yourself. You do it because you can't stop. The lens installed itself. There is no uninstall button. You notice you've become a slightly strange person. You have $50,000. And you drive a car with 140,000 miles on it. Someone at work assumes you're struggling. You let them assume it. Correcting them would require explaining. And explaining would require them to understand the $4,000. They won't. Because you didn't either until 9 months ago. This is the first level where your net worth and your appearance completely separate. Everyone below you is displaying money they don't have. You have money you don't display. Both are strategies. Only one of them compounds. Then the market drops 19% in March. $50,000 becomes $40,500. In 11 days, you lose $9,500. That's more than the entire first 2 years of saving. You feel it in your body. Not your mind. Your body. The ghost of the man at zero wakes up. And he's screaming. Because he knows what $9,500 island. It's 24 weeks of overtime. It's a year of not going out. It's months of saying no. You don't sell. Not because you're brave. Because you've done this before. At a smaller scale. With $14. And you know exactly what the feeling is. And exactly what the feeling is worth. You've been building tolerance to this specific chemical for 3 years without realizing that's what you were doing. 7 months later, it comes back. Everyone who sold locked in the loss. You did nothing. And the nothing was the entire skill. You don't have wealth at $50,000. You have a machine. And one confirmed instance of not breaking it. Level 6, $75,000, becoming dangerous to your employer. Level 6. $75,000. The number starts moving without you. You notice it in a statement. The account went up $2,100 this month. You put in $1,100. The other $1,000 came from somewhere else. It came from the money. You read that line 3 times. You have crossed a threshold with no ceremony attached to it. For the first time in your life, your money is contributing more in some months than you are. You are no longer the primary engine of your own net worth. You've been demoted by your own savings account. It's the best financial news you've ever received. And there's nobody to tell. You try once. You explain it to someone at dinner. They say, that's great. And they mean it. Then they change the subject. The significance is untransmittable. It only lands if you were there for the $9. The $14. The 9 days. The parking lot. Here's what $75,000 does to you that no amount below it did. You become dangerous to your employer. Not loud. Not difficult. $75,000 is roughly a year of your expenses. And everyone in that building can feel the difference between a person who needs the job and a person who has selected it. They can't name it. They adjust to it anyway. You get asked to do something unreasonable. You say, that timeline doesn't work. You don't apologize afterward. You don't fill the silence. The silence sits there. Someone else fills it. And the timeline moves. At 0, you would have said yes. Then hated yourself in the parking lot. The parking lot is where all of this used to happen. You realize the raise you got at $25,000 wasn't really about performance. You'd been performing the whole time. The raise happened because you could afford to be told no. Every negotiation you ever lost. You lost before you walked into the room. You lost it at the account balance. Not at the table. Then an offer comes. Someone approaches you about a business. It needs $30,000. The numbers are good. The person is credible. It's a real opportunity. Not a scam. And that's what makes it difficult. Because a scam is easy to refuse. $30,000 is 40% of everything you've built over 12 years. You think about it for 2 weeks.